The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, sending golden liquid and crystal shards across my parents' pristine white kitchen. My sister Victoria stood over me, her designer dress spotless, her smile razor-sharp. "You're not smart enough for this family," she sneered, loud enough for all 40 Christmas dinner guests to hear. "Honestly, Sophia, it's embarrassing. While I'm closing million-dollar deals at Goldman Sachs, you're playing with your little chemistry set like a child." The room fell silent. Aunt Margaret's fork hovered midway to her mouth. Uncle Robert cleared his throat awkwardly. My father, James Morrison, CEO of Morrison Pharmaceutical Industries, didn't even look up from his phone. "Victoria, please," my mother said weakly, more concerned about the scene than my feelings. "It's Christmas." "No, Mom, someone needs to say it." Victoria's voice carried that particular tone of cruelty she'd perfected since childhood. "She's 32 years old, living in that pathetic apartment, making what, $40,000 a year at that community college? It's mortifying." I wiped champagne from my face with as much dignity as I could muster. The sting wasn't from the alcohol in my eyes. It was from the scattered laughter around the room. My own family, finding entertainment in my humiliation. "At least I earned my position," I said quietly, standing up. "I didn't sleep my way into it." Victoria's face flushed crimson. "How dare you?" "Enough!" My father's voice boomed across the room. He finally looked at me, his gray eyes cold and dismissive. "Sophia, perhaps it's best if you leave. This is a gathering for successful members of the Morrison family. Clearly, you don't qualify." The words hit harder than Victoria's champagne toss. I looked around the room, cousins avoiding eye contact, aunts whispering behind manicured hands, my mother staring at her plate. 20 years of being the family disappointment crystallized in that moment. "Merry Christmas to you too, Dad," I managed, my voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. As I grabbed my coat from the hallway, my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, who calls during Christmas dinner? But the name on the screen made me pause. Dr. Marcus Webb, my research assistant. "Sophia, I'm sorry to bother you on Christmas, but..." "It's fine, Marcus. I was just leaving anyway. The patent office called. They've approved our application. The synthetic enzyme compound, it's officially ours." I stopped dead in the doorway. "What?" "The patent for SE47. It went through. The preliminary valuation came back at $12 million. Several major pharma companies have already reached out about licensing agreements." My hand trembled as I gripped the phone. SE47, the synthetic enzyme I developed after 5 years of research in my pathetic community college lab. The enzyme that could revolutionize production of certain medications, making them faster and cheaper to manufacture. "Sophia? Are you there?" "Yes, Marcus, are you absolutely certain?" "I'm looking at the documentation right now." "Congratulations, Dr. Morrison. You've just changed the pharmaceutical industry." I heard footsteps behind me. Victoria appeared in the doorway, her arms crossed. "Still here? I thought Daddy told you to." "Thank you, Marcus. Send me everything. I'll review it tomorrow." I hung up and turned to face my sister. For the first time in my life, I didn't see the golden child who'd made my childhood miserable. I saw a small, petty woman who measured worth in dollars and connections. "Goodbye, Victoria. Tell Dad I'll be in touch." "About what?" "Borrowing money again." I smiled, a real smile, not the forced one I'd worn to family gatherings for years. "No. About the patent he's going to need to save his company." I walked out into the snowy Boston night, leaving confusion in my wake. They'd understand soon enough. The next morning, my phone hadn't stopped ringing. 17 missed calls from my father, 12 from Victoria, 23 from various Morrison Pharmaceutical board members. I ignored them all, focusing instead on the stack of documents Marcus had sent over. The patent was even more valuable than we'd initially thought. SE47 could reduce production costs for a whole family of drugs by up to 70%. For a company like my father's, which had been struggling with profit margins for the past 3 years, it was a lifeline. I knew because I'd been watching. While my family mocked my little chemistry set, I'd been studying the industry, understanding where the pain points were, developing solutions. My father's company specifically manufactured several drugs that would benefit enormously from SE47. The doorbell rang at noon. I found my father standing in the hallway of my pathetic apartment, looking distinctly uncomfortable. James Morrison hadn't set foot in my building before. I doubt he even knew the address. "Sophia." He cleared his throat. "May I come in?" I stepped aside wordlessly. He entered, his expensive suit looking out of place against my second-hand furniture and stacks of research papers. His eyes landed on the patent documentation spread across my coffee table. "Is it true?" he asked without preamble. "The synthetic enzyme?" SE47. "Yes, it's true." He reached for the papers, then stopped. "May I?" "No." His hand withdrew as if burned. "Sophia, I understand you're upset about last night." "Upset?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Dad, you threw me out of Christmas dinner. You said I wasn't a successful member of the Morrison family. Your exact words." I was frustrated. The company is facing challenges, and I know about the challenges. I picked up a folder from the table. Zurich Pharmaceuticals undercut your pricing on 3 major contracts. The new FDA regulations mean retooling your entire production line. You're looking at laying off 300 employees by March. His face went pale. "How do you?" "Because unlike what you and Victoria think, I'm not stupid. I've been watching, studying, learning." While she was making her million-dollar deals that amount to moving numbers on a screen, I was creating something real. Something that could save your company. The enzyme could really do that. It could cut your production costs enough to beat Zurich's pricing while maintaining quality. It could save those 300 jobs. It could put Morrison Pharmaceuticals back on top. He sat heavily on my worn couch. "What do you want?" "What do I want?" I repeated. "For once in my life, I want recognition. I want an apology, a real one. I want Victoria to admit she's not the only successful Morrison daughter. I want Mom to stop being embarrassed by me. I want the family that threw me away to understand what they almost lost. And if we do that, if we acknowledge your achievements, then maybe we can discuss licensing agreements. My patent, your production facilities. It could work." His phone rang. He glanced at it and winced. "The board is in emergency session. We've had 3 more contracts canceled this morning. You should go then." He stood, then paused at the door. "Sophia, I'm sorry. For last night. For many nights before that. You're right, we never saw you. We never tried to see you." After he left, I sat in the silence of my apartment. The girl who wasn't smart enough for the Morrison family now held the key to its survival. The irony was almost poetic. Victoria showed up 3 hours later. She looked different, smaller somehow, without her usual encourage of admirers. "I heard about the patent," she said without preamble. "Come to throw more champagne?" I came to apologize. The words seemed to physically pain her. "I was wrong. You're not stupid. You never were. I needed you to be less than me. It made me feel secure. And now Dad's talking about making you head of R&D. The board wants to meet you. Everyone's saying you're a genius." She laughed bitterly. Turns out the family embarrassment was the only one actually creating value instead of just moving it around. "I'm not the family embarrassment, Victoria. I never was. I'm Dr. Sophia Morrison, professor of biochemistry, published researcher, and patent holder. The only embarrassing thing was how long it took you all to notice." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Can you forgive me? Can you forgive us?" I thought about all the Christmas dinners where I'd sat at the children's table despite being an adult. All the family newsletters that mentioned Victoria's promotions, but never my research publications. All the times I'd been introduced as our other daughter, while Victoria was our star. "I can work with the company," I said finally. "I can license the patent to save Dad's business and those jobs. But forgiveness? That's going to take more than one apology." Victoria left shortly after, and I was alone again with my success. But this time, the solitude didn't feel like exile. It felt like freedom. The licensing deal was signed a month later. Morrison Pharmaceuticals paid me $3 million up front, with royalties that would make me wealthier than Victoria within 2 years. The implementation of SE47 saved the company, just as I'd predicted. Stock prices soared. The board unanimously voted to create a position for me, Chief Innovation Officer. I accepted, but on my terms. I kept my teaching position at the community college. I kept my small apartment for 6 more months, until I was ready to move, not because I was embarrassed by it. I attended family dinners, but I never again allowed anyone to make me feel less than what I was. At the next Christmas dinner, there was no champagne thrown. Instead, my father raised a toast to Dr. Sophia Morrison, the brilliant mind who saved our company. The same relatives who'd laughed at my humiliation now clamored for my attention, seeking investment advice, partnership opportunities, connections. I smiled politely and gave them nothing. Success, I'd learned, was the best revenge, but boundaries were the best protection. Victoria and I eventually rebuilt our relationship, though it would never be the sisterly bond that could have been. She learned to respect me, and I learned to forgive without forgetting. My parents aged with the grace that comes from realizing how badly you've misjudged someone you should have cherished. As for me, I continued my research, developing 3 more patents over the next 5 years. I became known not as the Morrison family disappointment, but as the woman who revolutionized pharmaceutical manufacturing. Articles were written about me. Universities invited me to speak. The community college where I'd done my pathetic work renamed their chemistry building after me. But the moment I treasure most happened 2 years after that fateful Christmas. A young woman approached me after one of my lectures, tears in her eyes. "Dr. Morrison," she said, "I just wanted to thank you. My family treats me the same way, like I'm not smart enough, not successful enough. But seeing what you've achieved, knowing your story, it gives me hope." I hugged her, remembering the girl who'd stood in her parents' kitchen, covered in champagne and shame. "You are enough," I told her. "You've always been enough. Sometimes it just takes the right moment for the world to see it." She nodded and walked away, standing a little taller. And I realized that was worth more than all the patents, all the money, all the belated recognition. The dumb daughter had become something more than smart. She'd become an inspiration. And that was the sweetest success of all.